The Clemson Tigers have found their groove on the recruiting trail, really picked it up. First in the 2024 cycle, started with Sammy Brown, and now carrying over to the 2025 class. They've got a lot of talent coming in. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. If you're not already, please subscribe to this channel. Hopefully, if you are subscribed, you're noticing improved audio and visual quality here. My wife just got me that for Father's Day. So happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there as well. Let's just dive right in. Let's dive right in here. Okay, so Bryant Wesco, a big-time wide receiver in the 2024 class, committed to Clemson. He was originally a 4-star in the 247 composite, and it recently got updated to 5 stars. He's now, in the more detailed score, he's now at .9925, which makes him the best wide receiver, the highest-rated wide receiver, I should say. The Clemson's brought in since 2001 with Roscoe Crosby. Some other big-name wide receivers that have some high scores. The highest kind of in that time span was Deon Cain, who was a .9906. T. Higgins, who was 9899. Those were two of the top ones. Some others that were really high. Antonio Bryant was a 9731. Frank Ladson and Joan Goddard were both really high, 9799 and 9733 respectively. And then Darian Kendrick, 9855. Obviously, he moved over to cornerback and then, transferred. Just kind of kicked off the team. But so those are some other high ones. Obviously, being a highly rated clearly doesn't make you a lock to be great or anything, but just for some context, just how big of a prospect he is, really an all-around kind of guy that could be a number one wide receiver. He's got the speed, he's got the height. That combination is always enticing. That's what was so enticing about Frank Ladson, but problems staying healthy, problems catching the ball. So hopefully Wesco is, an elite wide receiver because he's got the talent and he's got the credentials for it. Another wide receiver in this class is TJ Moore. He actually committed first. He's from the Tampa area. Maybe not quite the same speed, but still very explosive because of his great hands, great body control, good route runner. His tape's full of circus catches. So huge for wide receiver coach Tyler Grisham, who's been kind of much maligned, partially because of recruiting and partially really just because of the product on the field. So with these guys coming in, it's got to give a lot more optimism about the future of that position and the future of Clemson alumni. Tyler Grisham, who I think everyone wants to see succeed. So that's really encouraging there. Jake Bringstool is a big-time tight end who's kind of in his payoff year right now. This coming year, he'll be a junior and is the number one tight end on the team. Christian Betancur will come in 2024, and he is highly rated, the highest rated tight end since then. A 4-star, he's 6'5", 240, kind of an all-around tight end he can catch. He plays a lot of out wide, so bringing him in, though, there's a pretty big learning curve for tight ends, or at least that's been the case in the past with Clemson's offense. We'll see if that's different with offensive coordinator Garrett Riley, but he could be the next big-time tight end. So it's good to see that position is continuing to bring in talent. I've talked about Sammy Brown in a previous video, which I'll link at the end of this one. He's got speed like Barrett Carter, but he's bigger. So obviously a huge get there. A few other names to hit on is Hevin Brown-Shuler. He's a big defensive tackle, 6'4", 290. Just for context on that, so he's like a power one-tech kind of guy. So Peter Woods is 270, TJ Parker 248, Vic Burley 276. Stefan Green 267. Caden Story is a big guy, so when he came in, he was 282. Peyton Page, huge, 360 when he came in. So just context, he's not Dexter Lawrence or Peyton Page, but this is a big power defensive tackle. So that's a nice add there. And then just one other guy, and this will transition us into 2024 and 2025, are these running backs. So David Ejumame from North Cobb, and then Gideon Davidson for the 2025 class out of Lynchburg, Virginia. So North Cobb, Atlanta suburb, northwest Atlanta. So I'll start with Ejumame. And I just think it's huge for CJ Spiller, just like what I was talking about with Tyler Grisham now, Spiller landing his big-time recruit. So he had 2 classes in a row where he didn't land sort of the top 4- and 5-star running backs that they wanted. There was a couple guys that you knew Clemson was in on, and I know one went to Georgia, and Clemson just wasn't hitting those guys. And now CJ Spiller's made some connections with some big-time players. So the last 2 classes, they had Jarvis Green out of Irmo, South Carolina, Jamarius Haynes out of Alabama, and then Keith Adams Jr. In last class. I did think Keith Adams Jr. Or Yeah, Keith Adams Jr. from the 2022 class. But I thought he looked good. He redshirted, and then he played in that spring game. I thought he looked good. He had some power, seemed to fall forward and burst through some arm tackle. So I thought he actually looked good. But point being, they're all not very highly rated. They're three-star guys. Now they're bringing in highly rated running backs in the 2024 and 2025 class. Both are track guys, so it makes sense that they would make that connection with CJ Spiller. For David Ojumame, speed guy, ran a 11.6500 meter. In his interview, when compared to asked who he was compared to, he said he hears Travis Etienne, but he's really faster than him. I imagine Etienne has that ridiculous acceleration, but maybe not the top end speed that Ojumame has. Ojumame also plays tight end, wide receiver, and maybe a little linebacker. I don't think he was joking, but he said he would love to get on the field for Wes Goodwin as well. I can't imagine he'd do that, but just kind of speaks to his toughness. I watched his film, and I loved the toughness. He did power through tackles, good speed, but also liked how he could go in between the tackles and hit a guy and push him forward. So was really encouraged to see him. And that was just his junior year. He still has his senior year ahead. And then Gideon Davidson, he only has a sophomore tape. He's still got 2 years away, but he plays defensive back, safety, but he was, on the line, defending wide receivers, and was physical, looked sharp there. Just made people look silly as a running back. And I don't know if it's, the competition he's playing in Virginia is not good, maybe, but the tape was kind of silly looking. He just blew by people for huge gains on plays that linebackers and safety should make. He looked unbelievable, and that's only as a sophomore. So he has the potential to be, a total game breaker. He does run track as well. He ran a 10.69 in his 100 meters, so he's even faster than Ojumame, and again, only a sophomore. So sky high potential for him. He's a huge get. Both 4 stars. Gideon Davidson is rated a little bit higher. So 2 big gets for CJ Spiller there. That's also very encouraging. There's another coach who was kind of under fire, is not being able to recruit, and now he hits on 2 big ones. So that's great. And then I'll wrap up with a quarterback. So the 2024 class, Clemson did not take a quarterback at all. There were a handful. Aaron Nolan went to Ohio State. Walker White goes to Auburn. So they missed on guys they wanted. And it looks like, if everyone stays healthy and everything goes according to plan, they'll redshirt Chris Vizina. So that kind of essentially pushes them to the 2024 class. So as long as everyone stays healthy, Hunter Helms or Paul Tyson, they'll provide the backup duty, and that's fine. So that sort of solves that problem. But then you really got to hit in 2025. And it looks like they did. Blake Hebert, not Herbert, Hebert. He's from Massachusetts, and I watched his film. I was really impressed. He had offers from Penn State, Notre Dame, Auburn, a handful of other big-time schools. He was 111 for 185 for 1,748 yards and a 24-1 touchdown to interception ratio across 12 games. I was impressed with his arm strength. A lot of beautiful over-the-shoulder catches or throws that he landed in there nicely. I wouldn't say he was a runner in the sense of Deshaun Watson or Kelly Bryant, but there was several plays on film where he had to sneak out of the pocket, and he did. And he even put on some moves and picked up some extra yards, kind of like reminded me of Trevor Lawrence, where people didn't think he would be fast, but he was actually a lot quicker than you'd expect, and could make plays. So I really like that. A lot of tape for a lot of skill players and quarterbacks was just, wide open wide receivers making catches. And he was throwing it, smaller windows. So I was impressed with his tape. He says his best attribute is his eyes, but he looked like a really good all-around player to me. And here's some context on him. So I went back and looked at all the past Clemson quarterback recruits, and he ranks 7th according to the composite score, which is that more detailed metric. You see him there at the bottom, 2025, with a 9.341. So a little bit behind Vizina and Klubnik and them for sure. But when you think about some of the other guys Clemson has brought in, like Kelly Bryant, Tucker Israel, Zara Cooper, and Tyson Pumachan, he is decisively ahead of a lot of those guys. And based on the tape, I'm definitely more optimistic about him than what those players delivered at Clemson. So I think it's a big gain for Clemson. I think it's a good ad, and a lot to be excited about. Clemson, they missed in 2024 in a quarterback, but it seems like they've solved that now with Blake Hebert joining in 2025. So a lot to be excited about. They only have 11 recruits in 2024 and only 2 for 2025. So there's a lot of room to go, but both are top 10 classes at the moment, and I think there's a lot of reason to be optimistic. Again, if you're not subscribed to this channel, I would appreciate it if you could subscribe. And also join me on Bunches. It's an app that's coming for Android. Right now it's on the iOS for the iPhone, and we're having great discussions there about Clemson. So I'll put up the information on how to join there. I'll also include the information in the video description. Thanks for watching. Again, appreciate you. Please subscribe.